This may be one of the most difficult questions about the criminal justice system, and there is no answer that everyone agrees on. Imagine this scenario. A person commits a serious crime and is sentenced to prison. They serve every single day of the sentence handed down by the court. During their time behind bars, they complete educational programs, receive counseling, participate in rehabilitation, and avoid disciplinary problems. When they are finally released, they spend years staying out of trouble, maintaining steady employment, supporting their family, and becoming a productive member of society. Then an opportunity arises. They apply for a professional license, a government position, a teaching certificate, a business permit, or even ask to have certain rights restored. Legally, they have completed their sentence. They argue they've paid their debt to society and deserve to be judged by who they are today, not solely by the worst mistake they ever made. But there is another side to the story. The victim or the victim's family has also spent those same years living with the consequences of that crime. For some, the physical injuries never fully heal. For others, the emotional trauma remains every single day. Some families lost a loved one and will never get another birthday, another holiday, or another conversation with the person they lost. While the offender was eventually given a release date, many victims feel their own sentence never truly ends. This raises an incredibly difficult question. Should victims or their families have a voice when major decisions are made about an offender's future after they have completed their prison sentence? Should they be allowed to speak before someone receives a professional license, has certain rights restored, or is considered for positions of public trust? Or, once the sentence imposed by the court has been fully served, should those decisions be based only on the law, rehabilitation, and the person's conduct since release? Supporters of victim involvement argue that justice shouldn't simply end when the prison gates open. They believe victims deserve to be heard because they continue living with the consequences long after the offender has regained their freedom. They argue that their voices matter whenever decisions could affect public safety or community trust. Others believe that while victims should always be treated with dignity and respect, allowing them to influence future decisions years later turns a finite prison sentence into a punishment with no true end. They argue that if society believes in rehabilitation, there must eventually come a point where people who have genuinely changed are allowed to rebuild their lives without their future being continually determined by their past. And then there's another difficult question. Would your answer change depending on the crime? Should the process be different for someone convicted of fraud than someone convicted of armed robbery? Should violent crimes be treated differently from nonviolent crimes? Are there some offenses where victims should always have a voice and others where they shouldn't? And finally, imagine yourself on both sides. If you were the victim or a member of the victim's family, would you want the opportunity to be heard before important decisions about the offender's future were made? If you were the person who had served your sentence, spent decades proving you had changed, and had done everything society asked of you, would you believe it was fair for your past to continue affecting opportunities for the rest of your life? Who should have the final say? The courts, government agencies, employers, victims, or society as a whole? This is a complex issue with deeply personal perspectives. There may not be a perfect answer, but we'd like to hear your thoughts. Share your opinion in the comments, explain your reasoning, and remember to keep the discussion respectful, even when opinions differ.